Hello. I know it's been a while. I'm still getting into this, and I really want to get into this kind of thing and even something slightly different. But because it's just fun for me, and it's nice to know I've put something out there, and maybe even get into books that aren't even as ubiquitous as this. Like some I love. My great uh, uncle Shakespeare's King Lear, as made for me to love in the um, Mr. McGorham's Wonder Emporium with his amazing quotes, which I'll get into once we get into that. And then, of course, the Odyssey. We'd have to do it a little differently, but Huck Finn, and as well as Anna Karenina, Pride and Prejudice, and things of that nature. But for now, chapter 3. A caucus race. And a long tail. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds were draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripped wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them as if she had known them all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the Lorry, who at last turned sulky and would only say, "I am older than you and must know better." And this Alice would not allow without knowing how old it was. And as the Lorry positively refused to tell its age, there was no more to be said. At last, the mouse, who seemed to be a person of some authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough." They all sat down at once in a large ring with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get dry very soon. "Ahem!" said the mouse with an important air. "Are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know. Silence all round, if you please." William the Conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders and had been of late much accustomed to usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria. "Ugh!" said the Lorry with a shiver. "I beg your pardon," said the mouse, frowning, but very politely. "Did you speak?" "Not I," said the Lorry hastily. "I thought you did," said the mouse. "I proceed. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, declared for him, and even Stigmund, the patriotic Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable." "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it," the mouse replied rather crossly. Of course you know what it means. It's very interesting how for those of you who don't know, the mouse is referring to, when it says the driest thing, it means like when you're reading something and it's completely boring, there's no personality, like how I started reading it when I read that part. Just the most boring thing ever. You can't even hear the voice, because there are some things that you can read with a voice and make more interesting, but then there are also things that just when you read it, you automatically feel the personality as you read it without even anyone else having to tell you. And then things you have to force into it, and it's like, nope, it's just the most boring, to the point thing. It's like when someone gives you the definition, like a practice sentences you hear in kindergarten and stuff. The boy ran. And it's just, the boy was scurrying along at a breakneck speed to get to the park before his friend beat him there and won the prize. Much more interesting. And then found it. It's like, well, no. He's talking about the word advisable, which means to, like, advice. Advisable. Found it, like, we need to give it this, like someone would give me advice to do this because it's the smart thing to do. It's like the good, right thing to do. It's probably a good idea to ... because advice is usually giving someone a good idea, or at least if it's good advice, or you're trying to give them a good idea, regardless of if it actually is. "I I know what it means well enough when I find a thing, said the duck. It's generally a frog or a worm, and the question is, what did the archbishop find? The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. Found it advisable to go with Edward Atheling and to meet William and offer him the crown. William's conduct at first was moderate, but the insolence of his Normans. How are you getting on now, my dear? It continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. As wet as ever, said Alice in a melancholy tone. It doesn't seem to dry me at all. In that case, said the dodo solemnly, rising to its feet. I move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies. So energetic, like fast-paced, like, we need something a little more fast-paced here. And then meeting adjourn means like, we're done, it's ended. Like a class adjourns, that's when you leave and you're done. You're done here, bye. But we're not here, obviously. I might even use that term later. Speak English, said the eaglet. I don't know the meaning of half these long words, and what's more, I don't believe you do either, and the eaglet bent down his head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered audibly. Audibly meaning where you can hear it, and titter kind of being like kind of a little laugh. What I was going to say, said the dodo in an offended tone, was that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race. What is a caucus race? Said Alice, not that she wanted to know, but the dodo had paused as if it thought that somebody ought to speak, and no one seemed inclined to say anything. Which, y'all know if you're the person who like, okay, wait, we're sitting in this group, we're in this place, and no one's saying anything. Well, I guess I'll take charge, or I'll say something, or most people would be surprised that at work I often will be one to do such a thing. Now, I may have no idea what I'm doing, but I will be like, so, is this what we're doing, or not, or what? Or how's your day going? Why, said the dodo, the best way to explain it is to do it. And as you like to try the thing yourself, some winter day I will tell you how the dodo managed it. By the way, a caucus race is something rather political. Let me check specifically. Where it is, A caucus race is a chaotic circular activity with no clear rules, no fixed starting or ending point, and no real winner. So I guess a caucus is a political thing. A caucus race, I guess, and this is me learning this for the first time, is not actually a thing to begin with, and except for when they created it in here. Let me see what a caucus. Let's look at what caucus is. I know it's some kind of group. Caucus is a meeting of members of a group or political party. So it doesn't have to be political, but usually it is. Usually you use that term more in that sense. More common use politics, discuss issues, choose candidates or leaders, or decide strategies or positions. In politics, especially in the U.S., a caucus is a local in-person meeting where participants debate and vote, often used instead of a primary election. So primary elections being when they first go to vote to say who are our options even out of the two that we usually leave at the end to be president. For example, it says here, Iowa will hold a caucus instead of a primary election, apparently. Outside strict politics, caucus can also mean any closed or internal meeting where a group plans or coordinates before acting publicly. So teachers might be said when they have a meeting to caucus. When we have our staff meetings, or when we have a meeting before going to, say, talk to the school board. So the literal meaning is caucus is a meeting or process, and a caucus race is a literary metaphor meaning chaos with no real outcome. let's see what that tells us when we get into here. What that chaos looks like and why we've decided it has no result. First, it marked out a race course in sort of circle. The exact shape doesn't matter, it said, and then all the party were placed along the course here and there. There's no 1, 2, 3 and away, but they began running when they liked and left off when they liked. So they just started and ended whenever the heck they felt like. Do it, whatever. So that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had been running half an hour or so and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over!" And they all crowded around it, panting and asking, "But who has won?" This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought, and it sat for a long time with one finger pressed to his forehead. I guess it means like feather that's being used as a finger like you do in cartoons. The position in which you usually see Shakespeare in the photos of him. While the rest waited in silence. Hey, there's my great uncle. At last, the dodo said, "Everybody has won, and all must have prizes, but who's to give the prizes?" Get quite a chorus of voices asked. So that's a lot of voices all at once, like when a chorus, like when everybody sings at once. "Why, she, of course," said the dodo, pointing at Alice. With one finger, and the whole party at once crowded around her, calling out in confused ways, "Prizes, prizes!" Yeah, like if you said that in kindergarten, because everybody gets prize, and they'll be like, you better give me one, and where the heck is it, and who am I asking for it, and hurry up, I get to get it first. And I would say the chaos here, because it seems like they did what they wanted, because they wanted to get their selves dry, which running around, getting yourself all hot, except for sweat, it will get things dry, which is why like fans and stuff work. If you put something on a fan and go, it's going to kind of create kind of a wind around it and wash the water off. Even though, of course, you'll start sweating and have a different reason to be all wet and stinky. Let's see here. So the chaos in not knowing is that it's a race, but we don't know who won. Obviously, they picked everybody just because he's like, I don't know, everybody wins. Because then he also doesn't want anybody yelling at him. But now we got to worry about them yelling at Alice, because what prizes does she have, especially in this situation? Alice had no idea what to do, and in her despair, she put her hands into her pockets and pulled out a box of comfits. Luckily, the salt water had not got into it, and handed them around as prizes. This was exactly one apiece all round. "But she must have a prize herself, said the mouse. "Of course," the dodo replied very gravely. "What else have you got in your pocket?" he went on, turning to Alice. "Only a thimble," said Alice sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo, and they all crowded around her once more, and while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, "We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble," and when it had finished a short speech, they all cheered. Alice thought the whole thing very absurd, but they all looked so grave that she did not dare laugh, and she could not think of anything to say. She simply bowed and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. Kind of like when you have a younger person who's playing a game, and they're acting like, "I am the king of da-da-da-da-da," or whatever, or something, and they're playing a game. You gotta give, unless they're doing it at the wrong time, like doing it when they're supposed to be doing homework or chores or something. If they're playing a game and you're having fun, you can't have the chance, you don't kill it, you get to, yes, absolutely, like they do, like Bandit does in Blue. He's very good at man. Yes. Unless he's turning it extra goofy, he will be there for him in the way they need to be. So will a lot of the other adults in that show. Now, I want to see what this comfits are before we move forward, because I feel like it probably has something to do with, like, at least in, like, how they find the meaning in some kind of candy, like, comforts kind of thing. Comfits defined. Small, sweet confections, traditionally seeds, nuts, or spices, coated in layers of sugar. They're similar to what we call sugar-coated candies. Okay, so they're just like little candy-covered seeds. Okay. What if that includes chocolate? So like chocolate-covered walnuts or something. Mm. Well, I wouldn't. I guess walnut would be the actual thing inside, not top. I'm a very picky person, so I usually haven't eaten a lot of things like that. So, but I assume like the inside of the walnut, not the actual, because then that'd be a whole other thing. Okay, let me see. And of course, she only just got a gift from herself. Like, you got a gift for yourself? I don't know. Where am I gonna get a gift? That pen there. I already had the... Here, take it. Here, take this pen. And it's like... Well, sure, whatever. So she's like, yes, yes. Thank you for this wonderful prize. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion as the large birds complained and they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last. I guess because it's so small on their tongue, it's like tasted nothing, and then the other ones is so big they're like. Birds actually have to eat rocks to make sure they can eat because they don't have a stomach that just naturally like breaks things down. They need to eat a rock so that the rock breaks it down. I know there's a word for that, but I can't remember it at the moment. I was trying to think of it earlier from reading, finishing off my, you know what? Reading my animal art book. Spaniel and a Stocking. Let's see. However, it was over at last, and they sat down in a ring and begged the mouse to tell them something more. You promised to tell me your history, you know, said Alice, and why it is you hate C and D, she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be offended again. Mine is a long and sad tale, said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. It is a long tale, certainly, said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. Wrong tail. T-A-L-E as in a story. T-A-I-L as in the thing that sticks out next to an animal's rear end. But why do you call it sad? And she kept on puzzling about it. I wonder if it's till her puzzler was sore. While the mouse is speaking, so that her idea of a tale was something like this. Ooh. And look at how they make it look. Looks like something out of Aladdin, like the smoke from the lamp. Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both go to law. I will prosecute you. Come. I'll take no denial. We must have the trial. For really this morning I've nothing to do," said the mouse to the cur. "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge, would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death." Oof. Seems so grimy there, too. "You're not attending," said the mouse to Alice severely. "What are you thinking of?" "I beg your pardon," said Alice very humbly. "You had got to the fifth bend, I think." "I had not," cried the mouse sharply and very angrily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, she means band like the band in the story, like that. And she's saying attending like you're not paying attention. I wonder how Alice is kind of like, she can't see the thing like we're saying, unless she can, because I mean it's a weird enough story. "I had not," cried the mouse sharply and very angrily. "A not?" said Alice, always ready to make herself useful and looking anxiously about her. "Oh, do let me help undo it." "I had not, as I didn't." Not N-O-T. She's thinking not as in your shoelace. K-N-O-T with the silent K. "I shall do nothing of the sort," said the mouse, getting up and walking away. "You insult me by talking such nonsense." "I didn't mean it," pleaded poor Alice. "But you are so easily offended, you know." The mouse only growled in reply. "Please come back and finish your story," Alice called after it, and the others all joined in chorus. "Please do so." But the mouse only shook its head impatiently and walked a little quicker. this impatience here with someone who probably has, as they wouldn't have back then, undiagnosed ADHD if her attention span is that bad. I myself was undiagnosed for years. What a pity it wouldn't stay, sighed the lorry, as soon as it was quite out of sight, and an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, "Oh, my dear, let this be a lesson to you, never to lose your temper." "Hold your tongue, Ma," said the young crab a little snappishly. "You're enough to try the patience of an oyster." Like, shut up, Mom. Don't tell me to not lose my temper. You're making me upset just right now. Probably not the smartest thing to say to your mom. But back then, also, girls were not supposed to get angry, and it's like, no. As long as we're reasonable about it, we can get just as angry as the boys can, or the men, depending on your age. "I wish I had our Dinah here. I know I do," said Alice aloud, addressing nobody in particular. "She'd soon fetch it back. And who is Dinah, I might venture to ask the question," said the lorry. Alice replied eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. "Dinah's our cat, and she's such a capital one for catching mice. You can't think. And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as it look at it." Be like if we talk about a monster eating little kids, and we're expecting the kids listening to the story to just be like, "This sounds cool." If they were thinking it being a real thing, like in this case, Alice is talking about Dinah, as it is, as her real cat. Like, you're going to bring something here that's going to eat us? We're birds! Stop it! Ugh. This speech caused a remarkable sensation among the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once. They're just like, you know what, I'm just out of here. I'm not even going to say anything. One old magpie began wrapping itself up very carefully, remarking, "I really must be getting home. The night air doesn't suit my throat." And a canary called out in trembling voice to its children, "Come here, come away, my dears. It's time you were all in bed." On various pretexts, they all left off and moved off, and Alice was left alone. "I wish I hadn't mentioned Dinah," she said to herself in melancholy. "Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world." And remember, our other friend was the mouse. "I wonder, oh, my dear Dinah, I wonder if I shall ever see you anymore." And here poor Alice began to cry again, but she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse had changed its mind and was coming back to finish the story. Before we go, I thought it'd be nice, since I'm not allowed technically to show you the photos from here, let's look at what some of these birds look like. Let's see. There's the lorry. Let me get my phone to right light. There are some lorries. Obviously, especially if you've seen the movie at all, you'll have a clue what a dodo looks like. Let's see, they said canary. Oh, the little yellow ones. And lastly, let's start with that magpie. So clearly magpies can come in a few different colors, but they're usually black-billed. So, different magpies. Some are a little darker than others. And it looks like we might be getting into a little shrinking and rising in size some resizing in our next one. Yesterday was games day, and I hope y'all had a good one. And we'll see if I can continue on at the very bare minimum next week with this. And these are amazing. They're made by 7 Seas Entertainment. If you would like to see Chris Syson's cover art and illustrations on this, Secret Garden, and a thing of different fairy tales, Little Princess, and other such stories. Reading adjourned.